Hello everyone, welcome back to Sophisticakes by Mary. For this video, I'm going to show you how I made this palette knife fault line cake that I topped with chocolate brushstrokes. If this sounds like something that's interesting to you, please stick around and we'll get right to it after the intro. Since these chocolate brushstrokes need to dry, I decided to do those first. And to make them, I used candy melts instead of real chocolate. Real chocolate you have to temper, and I did not want to deal with that. I am not real good with tempering. So I just melted these candy melts at 50% power for 30 seconds at a time until it was almost completely melted. You still have some chunks in it, but as you're stirring it, the heat from the bowl will melt the rest of it. And I just put a dot with the spoon on the silicone mat, and I just use a wide brush and make brush strokes out of it. That simple. I wanted to give these brush strokes some movement, so I manipulated the silicone mat into a round cylinder shape. That way they would dry with a little movement to them. And to dry these, I just put them in the refrigerator, and it only takes about 10 minutes. I did this same technique with some of this blue, some pale pink, and some white. And the pale pink was almost too pale. It almost looked white, but that's okay. I think it all still looked really good. I'm doing these at a different angle to get again, some variety, and I wanted these to have the opposite movement from the other chocolate brush strokes. Now I'm going to make a chocolate sail. I wanted to have a few different techniques on this cake. If you haven't noticed, I like to have quite a few techniques going on one cake. I think it adds visual interest. So I just used some of the white candy melts, and I did add a little oil just to make it a little bit more workable. And I just used my scraper to smooth it out a little bit. Use some of these chip clips. You could use your the pins that you use to hang your clothes to dry. That would be fine too. And just kind of gather it and get a shape that is appealing to you. And then put that in the refrigerator and let it cool also. And now when you're taking this parchment paper off, just be a little light-handed with it. Just kind of coax out little pieces at a time. And there's your chocolate sail. Now I'm going to release some more of these chocolate brush strokes from the silicone mat once they've dried. And be a little careful with these because the thinner end can tend to break. Which, if it breaks a little bit, that makes it look a little more interesting anyways, but you don't want it to break completely off. And once you get these off, just set them to the side in a cool, dry area until you're ready for them. And I did decide that this blue was a little too vibrant for what I wanted, so I'm just using this Wilton Pearl spray to kind of mute down the color a little bit. And make sure you get both sides. This color spray dries very quickly. This stuff has been a lifesaver to me on more than one occasion when it comes to dulling out a color a little bit. Now let's get our cakes ready. I am leveling off the domes and just stacking them to the side until I'm ready to work with them. I always put a little bit of buttercream on the board before I start assembling the cake, just so it will stick. I'm just using my thickened buttercream. Just adding a layer of that, smoothing it out, and adding, since I did the chocolate chip cookie cake, I just wanted to add some chocolate chips to the filling. And I do like to add another little bit of buttercream where the two cakes meet. I feel like that kind of helps it from bulging a little bit. If you used your thickened buttercream and just really push it in there. Now I'm just removing the parchment off of the bottoms of those cakes, if that you see me doing that and wondering what the heck are you pulling off of there. Now at this point, just make sure that it is as level as you can get it and smooth out that filling, the extra buttercream that you had added. use that kind of as your crumb coat. I just added a little bit more to the top. I didn't have quite enough for that. A crumb coat just locks in your crumbs so that they do not come out on your final coat of buttercream. Set that in the refrigerator for 20 minutes until you're ready to work with it. And I secure this to my display board with just some rolled up packing tape. I'm going to do a coat of just my white American buttercream, which I will add a link to that recipe. And this is just going to be kind of a base coat because you're not going to see so much of this white once you get this technique done. Now I'm using a toothpick just to mark out where I want that fault line. Now when you're planning out a fault line, remember that as you are smoothing out the top layer of buttercream, it's going to push in towards the middle of your fault line. So don't make it too narrow to begin with. And I'm using a palette knife to apply this buttercream. So when I say palette knife, buttercream technique, this is just how I applied these swatches of colors. I wanted to be a little bit more in control of it, so do not load up that knife too much. I just kind of randomly, haphazardly applied this until I got it to a place where I thought it looked nice. Do not add this too thick. You do not need a lot of buttercream in this fault line. You don't need a lot of thickness. I'm just using this pastry brush to add a little bit of brush stroke to the fault line also. Kind of get it to coordinate with the chocolate brush strokes that are on top. And once I get all this buttercream on, I go ahead and I put it in the refrigerator to firm up again. And once it's firmed up and does not stick to your finger when you touch it, you can go ahead and start adding I guess it's your main color of buttercream. This, I don't even know what to call this color. I just mixed colors until I came to a color I liked. It's more of a dusty blue, but it's almost a denim color. So you'll outline where your fault line is first. And then I do buttercream on the bottom, around the bottom, and then I fill in. Try to maintain around the same thickness of buttercream because that makes it a little easier to remove the excess and to smooth it out. And just take your time doing this. I'm kind of concentrating on the bottom first and then going and doing the top. And fill in where you have any dips or are missing some buttercream as you are smoothing it out. These areas will make themselves very clear. Now on this top part, I am first pulling the buttercream in from the fault line across the top. Tackling that first. And then go ahead and do your sides. Take your time doing this. And when you get it where you want it, clean off the board because that is your display board. If you use your display board to actually smooth out this buttercream. Now to get this flag in, I marked where I wanted it and then I pulled it out and then I used a knife to cut into the actual cake and stick it in there, and then I used some buttercream on the back just to make sure that it stayed. Now I wanted to incorporate a little bit of this purple. So I used one of the chocolate brush strokes and broke it into small pieces and just added pieces here and there. It also adds just a little bit more texture. Actually, I guess that is more of the blue that I added the pearl spray to. And then finish off your top with some more of those chocolate brush strokes. Just kind of line them up where they look good to you. And on this one I had to exercise a little bit of restraint because I had so much going on with the actual palette knife technique with colors that I didn't want to go too crazy with the sails and the chocolate brush strokes, but I did want to include some. So there you go, guys, my palette knife brushstroke cake. I hope you liked it and you got something from it, and maybe you'll give it a go yourself. And if you did, please like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload. And I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time, guys. Thanks. Bye.